Hi, welcome to the channel. I am Summer. Today we are taking my long, lifeless flat hair and we are cutting it shorter to blend in the gap between my face framing layers into the length to make it more even, more full, more thick looking, but still maintain some movement all throughout it. So I can't wait to show you guys. So let's get started. Okay, I am so excited to be cutting my hair today. We are gonna be bringing my length up, because what I am doing right now, I'm kind of over my layers. I'm in the process of growing them out. And as you can see, my face frame pieces are so much shorter than where my length is in the back. And so by bringing up my length, I'm gonna connect that a little bit more so it'll fill in the gap as these grow out. And then what I'll be doing is just kind of blending in my layers. I don't necessarily want to add any more, but I need my ends cut a little bit. So I'll be doing that as well. So what I'm gonna do first is just section off front to back, just so my sides are out of my way when I go to cut my perimeter. And I'm gonna do that on the other side, and then I'll show you guys how I like to start cutting my back perimeter to remove all that length. Okay, so as you can see, the hair in the back is quite long. That's pretty much where all of my length comes from. So I'm just gonna do right down my middle as best as you can. If you have a mirror to look at to do this from behind, it helps, but I don't worry about it too much, honestly. So I'm gonna pull all that hair forward. And I like to comb it forward because I feel like helps keep it cleaner. So I'm gonna take my first section on both sides. So now we're gonna be cutting our perimeter first. This is a little bit too big of a piece for me to wanna set my guide. So what I'm just gonna do is just break it in half to set my guide. And I'm sort of using like the basis of my arm line here as my guide. I'm gonna cut probably just a little bit above it. I'm dying a little inside. This is the longest my hair has naturally been in probably like 20 years. So I'm just gonna comb my hair down, fine side of that comb. I'm coming right down just a little bit above my arm line and cutting. And so now what I'm gonna do is take my other piece. I'm gonna comb that down with fine side of my comb. And I'm gonna bring it to the center here to match my guide and cut. It looks like it's a little bit longer, just barely. Close enough for now. I can tweak it in a little bit. Oh, I can't believe I cut that. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring in the rest of my first section here. And one thing you'll notice, when I'm grabbing this hair, the hair that's on the back side here, I'm bringing it to the outer corner. I have found when cutting my own hair, when I don't do this, it ends up getting like that V shape a little bit more, which is fine if that's what you like, but I don't want that. I've already kind of got it with how short my front pieces are. So just to let you know, I'm bringing my back, the back side is coming out to the outer corner. So we're gonna come down. I see my guide in there. It's a little big of a section, but it'll do. And cut. Oh my God, it feels good to take this length off already. Other side, again, we're combing this outer piece to the outside because I don't want a V. Now what I'm gonna do is bring these two pieces forward now that I have a little bit more hair here. And see, it's just that little outer corner. And I'm gonna leave these forward. Oh my God, I did it a little shorter than what I wanted. Ah, that's okay. It needs it. Next section. I haven't cut my hair probably in like 6 months. It's so bad. I was wearing my extensions, so like I just would like lightly dust it, but it hasn't had like an actual real haircut. Yeah, all year, it's crazy. Comb that hair down. Okay, this is a little bit too thick of a section. It's hard for me to see to my guide, so I'm gonna just twist this out of the way and then cut. You always want to be able to see through to the piece that you're cutting. And I'm gonna angle my hands down just a little bit, just to help slightly give it a little tiny bit of length. It's not like it's gonna have like this sharp angle, it just helps a little bit. Now I'll let out that piece. And again, I'm combing this hair that's in the back to the outer side. That needed to be tweaked just a little bit back there. So I'm gonna do this all through till I get to the very top of my hair, and then we'll be blending in my layers. I need a little bit more length off of this one side. And that back corner. I feel like I cut my hair shorter than I intended to. What's the phrase? Like subconsciously, because I've been wanting to go shorter. And I'm like, oh, I'll just do a little bit now. And it definitely took off a good, probably like 1.5 inches more than I intended to. But it feels better already. So you can, like I did with this section, always break it into 2 parts if you feel like it's easier for you at a time rather than trying to take it all in one big swoop per section. The key with cutting your own hair is go slow, make sure your sections are lining up, and take your time. And if you mess anything up, don't freak out. That is always most important because you can always blend it in. You can always salvage it. Most times, I mean, sometimes you can't, but the key is to not freak out. Piece on my inner corner here that is not doing what I want. Let's see. Okay, so this piece is driving me nuts, so I'm gonna come and bring it to the underside. There we go. This side got wonky on me. let's see, I'm just gonna let this last part out because there's so many layers in here. The perimeter is probably gonna be done at this point. So we've got 2 more sections here for my perimeter on this back side. Maybe 3. I'm taking too big of sections. I'm just following my guide and cutting. Like all the hair is on the left side of my head. I have like no hair on the right side compared to my left. And at this point, we're kind of in like the side ear area, so I'm not worrying about combing into that back as much. I'm gonna definitely need some highlights after this. Okay, so we'll take a look at it, see how it's lining up. I feel like this side's a little got wonky on me, but I'm gonna wait until after I get it dried and my sides come down because I might not need to tweak it. We'll see. And this side just needs a little cutting down here, just to soften it. I tried to mostly blunt cut, but my hair is actually like underneath, for the most part, the healthiest it's ever been. So it's like super kind of thick almost, thicker than normal, because I'm not coloring and highlighting it like I used to. I will wait to tweak until my sides are done. So at this point though, because my sides were already so much shorter, there's hardly anything to cut here. It's gonna take so long for those layers to grow out. They were fun for a while, you know, the old butterfly, have all that movement and layers, but I'm over them now. Okay, so now that my perimeter has been done, I'm gonna just separate again the side, and I'm gonna go a little bit behind my ear here for my layers, just because more so on this right side, my hair is a lot more thin, and I don't wanna risk like cutting more than I need to as far as the layering goes. And truth be told, I really don't wanna cut any layers, but I haven't cut my hair in so long. I know it needs at least some sort of dusting on the hair that's there. So while I'm not gonna be cutting a lot of a layer per se, I still wanna make sure I'm like lightly dusting those ends just to keep the split ends from creeping on up that hair shaft or strand, whatever you wanna call it. And I'm just gonna do like square layers essentially. So I'm coming across my top. I'm using the fine side of my comb here. We're coming all the way up. And I'm just gonna, I don't even wanna cut that much. I'm so sad. All right, so we're coming all the way up, and I'm just gonna take off just a little bit, and I'm just gonna lightly point cut into it. I don't want a blunt cut. Just to help it out a little bit, I'm gonna comb back up, make sure I got what I needed. A little bit on this guy needs to come off. I'm gonna leave that forward, and I'm gonna take my next section. I'm just using my fingers, so nothing fancy. Take from my center point here, up. Ooh, that right side is so much longer than, or the left side is so much longer than my right. My left side is thicker and grows faster. And I'm just gonna continue doing this until I basically have no more hair that meets this little baby guide that I have set. I'm gonna use my corners to see more. This hair will yep, doesn't meet. Okay. So much length. I'm kind of sad about it, but like it needed it so bad. And this is the easiest way, like I said at the beginning of the video, to like shorten the gap between how short my face frame is to the rest of that length. And now I can like lighten up my hair some without worrying about like trying to keep my length. Okay, so I'm gonna be skimming my layers in the front just slightly because again, I want those to grow, but they are so, like the front of my hair is not the health, like it's just really, it gets damaged easily. So I need to just lightly dust it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna comb the hair all the way back and I'm just gonna twist as I go. I'm gonna switch to that fine side of my comb. So I'm coming all the way back while twisting. And I'm just gonna point cut into this little bit that's left out. I'm just lightly basically skimming it. Back, twist, 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 go all the way up and you're just taking out the top corner. And the reason why I'm going back with it is because it's removing the least amount of length. And then around my face here, I'm just gonna bring this down and lightly across. Again, I need to use the fine side of my comb because I'm so much finer here. And I'm going across my face again to extend a little bit of length. I don't, again, want to remove too much, so it over directs it slightly. And my hands are a little bit twisted and I'm just, I mean, we're barely cutting off anything. So a good thing to do if you are trying to grow out your layers like I am, but you need a haircut, just slightly point cutting into it a little bit will help nip the end slightly without removing necessarily extra length. Because it's hard. It's like you want to grow it out, but you're like, well, it kind of needs cut, but you hate to see it go. I should even this out, but I don't want to. So I'm going to leave it. There is a disconnect here with the face framing I had, but I don't want to leave it. I don't want to lose it. So it's going to be a little rule breaker here and keep it. Now, my problem on this other side is I lightly adjusted my part to off center. So my face frame on this side now appears a little bit longer because I swooped it over where before it was cut to the middle. So I'm just gonna take my front little piece here and my front piece here on this other side. And I'm just gonna come down and meet them so I can even them out a little bit more. And it's not like a lot needs to come off, it just needs to blend a little bit better. I'm a big tucker on this side of my head. So sometimes if my face frame isn't like completely perfect, I also don't really care. So it's such a good tutorial. But because I do know that I always am tucking it there, I'm like, it's not the end of the world if it's not exact, because 9 times out of 10, no one's gonna even see this side of my face down. But just to make it blended more, I am gonna touch it up. And again, because my hair is a little bit more fragile in the front, it does need a little bit of shape. Just a little bit here. I am gonna leave it a little longer like I did on the other side. And then I'm gonna do my layering the same, bring everything back. So this allows all the perimeter to fall out, so you're not jeopardizing your length and the bulk of your weight if you have finer hair like myself. It's like I have a lot of hair in the back of my head, but my sides are a different story. So I always typically, with the exception of my previous layers, always over direct way back like this to preserve my weight. But you know, I wanted to try something different and I enjoyed it. It's just, I have to wear extensions with it if it's gonna be longer like that, and I just don't feel like it right now. So what I'm gonna do now is, I can tell my perimeter's a little, dare I say, a little too blunt, bulky looking for me. So I'm gonna actually just lightly texturize it first before I blow dry it. And I'm just gonna use my thinning shears and I'm just gonna come in, nothing wild, but just slightly, I'm basically like point cutting into it with the thinning shears just to soften it. There's such like a fine line between like too blunt and then like too thin. Make sure you're using your thinning shears. I have accidentally grabbed the wrong one and that was fun. So always do like a double take beforehand. And then because I don't have as much hair, I can just go in one little go here. I'll break it up, why not? I got this one piece that just wants to hang out. It's driving me insane. Look at him. I'm just gonna check one more time before bringing down all of this. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. Okay, so I'm gonna dry it and then we will see what it's looking like straight with a blowout and then come back in. For my blow dry, I like using a root lifter to give me a little extra volume at my root. And then I like using a mousse through my mids and ends just to extend the volume to be everywhere. And then my final product, I'm just using Redken's Big Blowout, as this has a heat protectant in it before drying my hair. That way I'm covered there. And then I'm just gonna do a nice bouncy blow dry with a nice round brush. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I'm so happy that I cut it. It needed it so bad, even being like a tiny bit shorter than what I wanted. Oh my gosh, so much better. So now what you would wanna do at this point is you would grab an additional mirror here to take a look at the back and see what needs cut, what doesn't need cut. In my back, because it was already longer, I had sort of that like light angle already going. So there's a little bit of that left still. And maybe like that little middle tail I'd like to cut. But honestly, like cutting your hair on your own, it's really hard. So it's not going to be perfect. You need to expect that going in. I've been doing hair 16 years, okay? Like I can't even cut my hair like perfectly to a T. So I always push my hair like this, pretty much always forward. So I'm not that worried about like that little baby tail. I don't know if you guys can see it, but oh my God, it came out so good. So at this point, if you were cutting your own hair, what you could do is maybe like if you feel like you're too blunty, you could come back in and texturize some. Like I said, I did my perimeter pretty blunt, so that could stand a little bit more. Again, make sure you're using the right shears, like light thinning. But if you like a really blunt look, you know, obviously you can leave it. It's all personal preference. Oh my gosh, it feels so much better. So yeah, I'm just going through my perimeter. My underneath is especially like super thick. So I want to show you guys this part. This is where I kind of like fumbled on my own. I think when I was setting my guide, I cut this piece shorter than I wanted. And so like technically I should blend that in, but honestly, when my hair is down, like you can't even see it. I would be the only one that can notice it. So that's why when you do have certain mess ups, like don't freak out. Don't like be like, oh my God, it's ruined. It's salvageable. And usually you'll be the only one that notices over anybody else. So I'm gonna finish off with some hairspray and we'll get you guys out of here. All right, here we have our finished and final look. I am so happy that I decided to shorten my hair. It really closed that gap between my face frame that I had with all of that length. It just evened everything out. It looks thicker everywhere, and I still have nice movement from the layers that still remain in the cut. Remember, take small sections when you're cutting on your own hair at home. If you happen to mess up and overcut something, don't freak out. Just take your time and keep moving on to the next section, and then you can always wait and go back in when it's dry. And remember, when cutting your own hair, it's never gonna be completely perfect. You need to keep that in your mind so you don't beat yourself up. Mine, I love how it came out. I'm happy with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.